Thank you for joining us on The Skeptic Psychic, where we delve into ancient societies, the ghosts, the paranormal, UFOs, all looking at it from the perspective of the true believer and from the skeptic perspective. Joining me, my partner, my co-host, my sibling, Kimber Rodriguez. Myself, I am Richard Gregg. And again, let's look into being the skeptic psychic.
Hi, how you doing? Such a nice day. Just want to make those little mistakes of trees, that sort of thing. So, just want to let you know that we're here for you and always happy. But then again, we're always going to have to say, welcome once again to the wonderful world of the Skeptic Psychic. I am a coach, your friend, your colleague, your really excellent, most audacious person that you'd ever meet, Richard Gregg. And with me, as always, the smart, talented, funny, my mom's gift to the world, Kimber Rodriguez.
Hello, how are you this week?
I got bumped in the head yesterday, said a few cuss words, and then I decided I wanted to come into work.
Oh, are you okay?
I'm fine, I think so.
Oh, goodness. No signs of concussion or anything?
No signs of concussions or anything like that. How about you?
I'm doing good. Um, just dealing with the time change, and that always messes me up.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking at your beard there. Are you trying to give Jason a run for his money?
I'm following after my mentor.
There you go. I'm sure he'd get a kick out of that. So, other than getting hit on the head, what else is new for you this
No,
week?
I didn't get hit on the head. I got slapped upside the head with it.
Hmm. So it did it just like fall over and bam, or was it like came flying at you?
No, it was more like it witch slapped me.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Phoebe. So glad you could be here this week. If I'm
Hello,
correct,
Raymond.
Phoebe is a good friend of Mercy's from high school. If this is the same Phoebe, um, I'm sure she'll let us know.
Yep. I
But
did notice the fact that we're not on Twitch. Is there a reason why we're not on Twitch?
we should be. That's weird. Let me check that. See if I can add that as
Because it
well.
shows us we're offline right now.
Huh, that's weird. Um, Dang it. I can't believe I forgot to put Twitch in this week. Well, the thing won't let me go back and add it without ending it. So I guess we won't be on Twitch this week. I apologize.
No, I don't like it.
But we are on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification so that you know when we post new videos. And, leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing.
We like you.
Raymond says, "Don't take me gold." Yes.
Don't
I was
take me gold.
That's what Raymond says.
Don't bring me down.
Yes. I was actually watching a really interesting video earlier today. I watched these little TikTok videos from this college kid that has
Mm-hmm.
ADHD. Um, and I don't know his name, but he's really entertaining. And he was talking about something that I found really relatable. And I could see it not only in myself, but in you and Jim Scott and other people I know with ADHD. And he was talking about how when we talk to other people, we tend to mirror the way they talk,
Mm-hmm.
and about how that is a way that we mask. And another thing he was saying is like if there's nobody else around, then we'll just start mirroring in different ways, such as doing different accents. And I know we all do accents. You, me, Jim Scott. We've all been known to do our little accents while we're talking. We'll just break into another accent. And I know
Yes,
other neurodivergents that do that as well. So I was like really fascinated to find out that that's, part of being neurodivergent. And that's a way that, we mask and stuff. is through
Well,
funny
I've
voices.
also been known to break into song and dance.
Yes, me too.
No, I'm just saying, I will break into song and dance, and people are like, "Are you okay?" Like the other day, I'm at work and somebody's got the radio on. I start doing a little dance. They all kind of laugh, and my manager's watching the videotape just to see exactly what we're doing, and I hear Richard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm the type of person that you can just say something and it'll trigger a song and I'll just start singing.
Mhm.
But anyway, yes, don't take me gold. We are here tonight to talk about the leprechaun.
Yes, yes, yes. As I remember once in my life, I remember this little ditty. It goes, "We, we, we, replicants, walking across ye lawn, throwing petals here and there to show where we've gone."
Yes. Before we get into that, though, we do have another listener story. This is from Autumn, who is our one of our researchers, and so I want to go ahead and share her story. She says that she was a volunteer EMT for about a year, and 2 years prior, she was a driver. They had a call for a cardiac arrest death, and when they got to the scene, it was obvious the gentleman had passed away. She says so I'm not sure, I think she means like either the wife or whoever, but it says that they became hysterical, saying they saw him blink and he spoke. The son, which was in their 40s, came running down the hall and said he heard his father speak. We confirmed that he had passed and that he had not spoken, but the mother and son both heard him say, "Careful." Later on, they found that the gentleman had a large sense of humor, and people would make a joke. "You turning into Santa Claus, look at that gut." And he would look at them stone faced and say, "Careful," and then laugh. And she also says that when she worked at a private home for individuals who were mentally delayed, they had an individual pass away. Her favorite thing to do would be tug our shirts, and she'd stack items. Not like cups, but chairs or garbage cans if empty. A few weeks later, she was covering a night shift and felt a tug on her shirt and looked at her coworker. "What?" She was confused. I asked if she tugged on my shirt, and she replied no. Later that night, she was doing her night checks, and in the kitchen were two garbage cans stacked. So that's Autumn's story. Thank you so much, Autumn, for sending that in. If you'd like to have a story read on our show, you can always email it to us at info@skepticpsychic.com, and we'll be glad to share your story as well. You know, it's interesting when she's talking about the mentally delayed home. My husband, as you all know, suffered a stroke in 2019, and he had to spend a year in a nursing home. And the nursing home was haunted by a little girl, which is odd because it's never been anything but a nursing home there. I think possibly it could have been the spirit of one of the people who passed. Maybe they had Alzheimer's or whatever. So they reverted back to that state after their death. But the nurses would tell me that they all had to quit wearing shoes that tied because the little girl in the middle of the night, when they were sitting there doing their report, she would untie their shoes and then tie them together. You would also hear a little girl laughing and running through the hallways. And then when they would go out to tell whoever it was to stop that this was a nursing home, there was no one there. Also, we would hear knocks on the door, look out, nobody there. And then one of the men, he was paralyzed from the neck down, but he could still talk and everything. And he would tell the nurses that the little girl would come and sit on his bed and he could see her perfectly. And he would try to talk to her and see who she was, and she wouldn't say anything. She would just look at him. So that was a little cute story. I can go more into that later, but let's talk about leprechauns. That's what you all came here for, right?
No, I came here because I enjoyed the company of my wonderful, smart, and beautiful sister, as well as these wonderful people who like to spend time with me. Quality time on Sundays is always kind of something I really look forward to.
Yes, it's something I enjoy. So, tell us about the leprechaun.
When I have to tell you about the leprechaun, first off, I've got to explain to you about this little fair isle that is north of Great Britain, where the legends of Finn McCool and the giant's pathway have always got to be able to sing upon the loveliness and the bloody castle whose stone, if you kiss it, it brings you good luck. But they're often described as winsome, bearded old men dressed in green or in red and wearing buckled shoes, off with a leather apron. Sometimes they've got a pointed cap or hat and may have been smoking a pipe. Solidarity by nature. He said to be said to live in remote places and to make shoes and bruggas. The sound of his hammering betrays his presence. In their book, The Element Encyclopedia of Magical Creatures, John and Caitlin Matthews trace leprechaun legends back to the 8th century legends of water sprites called Leprechauns, meaning small body. These sprites eventually merged with the mischievous household fairy said to haunt cellars and drink heavily. So it's Irish. Other research says that word leprechaun may be derived from the Irish leprchaun, meaning shoemaker.
I was
Now,
wondering if you were going to do the accent throughout the whole episode.
but I thought about that.
Yeah, let's stick to our own accents. But you were going to say you said interesting, and I cut you off.
Uh, do you remember the Leprechaun's Christmas back in the early '80s, where they had two clans of leprechauns? One were the shoemakers, and one were the gold miners.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, it's just interesting. Off topic, the fact that the, the gold miners were the ones who mined the gold that they all what leprechauns used, and the shoemakers were the ones who made the shoes, that sort of thing. And you know the two clans were joined together because of the the female. I would The matriarchal of the clan was originally from the shoemakers, and the patriarchal was from the from them, and they were battling against a banshee who wanted the gold.
Interesting. No, I don't
Yeah,
remember that one. But as
yeah,
far
but
as the shoemakers, I thought it was always the elves and the shoemaker.
well, that was in Germany. Over
Ah,
in shoemaking is apparently a lucrative business
well, yeah,
in the
because
fairy
everybody
world,
needs shoes.
since each leprechaun is said to be a pot of gold, which can be often found at the end of the rainbow. Now, elves in the German legends were also shoemakers as well. So obviously, you've got the stylish Germans or the cute little uh, casual leprechauns that make these really shoes.
Hmm.
Now, according to Irish legends, people lucky enough to find a leprechaun and capture him, or in some stories, steal his magical ring, coin, or amulet, he can barter his freedom for the treasure. Leprechauns are usually said to be able to grant a person three wishes, as we found in Dario Gilno the Little People. But dealing with leprechauns can be a tricky proposition. The leprechaun plays several roles in Irish folklore. He is principally a roguish trickster figure who cannot be trusted and will deceive whenever possible. In the encyclopedia Spirits, Fairies, Leprechauns, and Goblins, folklorist Karen Rose offers a typical leprechaun trickery concerning a man who managed to get a leprechaun to show him the bush in the field where his treasure was located. Having no spade, also known as a shovel, the man marked a tree with one of his red garters, and then kindly released the sprite, and went for a spade. Returning almost instantly, he found that every one of the numerous trees in the field spotted a red garter.
Interesting. Did you get my message there?
Did I get my message there?
Yes, I sent you a
I was not
message.
reading your part. I was reading mine. It was all in yellow.
That's weird. It's in white on mine.
Oh, okay. I'll
I'll
let you read
pick
the
up.
next part.
Okay. Well, it seems that all leprechauns are not only shoemakers, but also old male loners. So I guess this is like the difference between a spinster female. The the leprechauns are like the male version of the spinster.
Maybe.
Um, and this
The
does make
widower.
yes, this does make sense from a cultural standpoint, since that type of fairy is so closely associated with shoemaking, and is usually a male vocation. Lay your ear close to the hill, do not catch the tiny clamor. Busy click of an elfin hammer, voice of the leprechaun singing shrill as he merrily as he merrily plies his trade. And as a way of explaining why there is no record of female leprechauns, and therefore there's no way for them to procreate, which is something I was thinking about. Um, how do they make more leprechauns if they don't marry and there's no females? Well, it says that some sources claim leprechauns are the unwanted children of the fairy community. As a result, the leprechaun is described as grouchy, untrusting, and a solitary creature. Although they might not match your initial idea of what a fairy is, they are considered a part of the fairy family. Excuse you.
Excuse me.
And like other fairies, they're small in size and prone to mischief. These miniature men are said to be descendants of Tuatha Danann, or Danann, which is a group of magical beings that served under the Gaelic goddess Danu. According to the le-
Tuatha Dean.
According to legend, this mythical group lived in Ireland long before humans inhabited the land. The earliest known folklore to feature a leprechaun comes from the Middle Ages. In it, Fergus mac Letty, the king of Ulster, falls asleep by a bench, and he is awakened to find three Luco, Lucor or little bodies, attempting to drag him into their undersea lair. The king captures them, but releases them after he is promised three wishes. This story suggests the mythical men are sea dwellers, but modern takes on the myth do not often include this lifestyle detail. A leprechaun usually takes the form of an old man with a red or white beard. And Shelley says, sorry about the funky names. Not a problem, Shelley. It's Irish. I understand. They have a different way of speaking than we do. Um, but as I was saying, popular depiction shows the leprechaun as being no taller than a small child with a beard and hat, sitting on a toadstool. However, the leprechaun originally had a different appearance depending on where he was found. And before the 20th century, leprechauns were described as wearing red as opposed to green. This is from Samuel Lover's writings in 1831, and he describes the leprechaun as quite a beau in his dress, notwithstanding, for he wears a red square coat, richly laced with gold, and inexpressible of the same, cocked hat, shoes, and buckles.
Now, according to W. E. Yeats, the solitary fairies, like the leprechaun, wear red jackets, whereas the trooping fairies wear green. The leprechaun's jacket has 7 rows of buttons. with 7 buttons to each row. On the western coast, he writes the red jacket is covered by a fringed one, and in Ulster the creature wears a bicorn hat. When he is up to anything unusually mischievous, he leaps up onto a wall and spins, balancing himself on a point of the hat with his heels in the air. According to McKinley, he is about 3 feet high and dressed in a little red jacket and roundabout, with red breeches buckled at the knees, grey or black stockings, and a hat cocked in the style of a century ago over a little old withered face. Round his neck is Elizabethan ruff, and frills of lace are at his wrist. On the wild west coast, where the Atlantic winds bring almost constant rains, he dispenses with ruffs and frills and wears a reasoned overcoat over his pearly red suit, so that, unless on the lookout for the cocked hat, ye may pass a leprechaun on the road and never know himself that is in it at all.
Now, this dress could vary by region. In McAlany's account, there were differences between leprechauns and logarimans from different regions. The northern leprechaun, or logariman, wore a military red coat with white breeches, with a broad rimmed high pointed hat, on which he would sometimes stand upside down. The Luri Godwin of Tipperary wore an antique slash jacket of red with peaks all around and a jockey cap, also sporting a sword which he used as his magic wand. The Luricawin of Kerry was a fat, pursy little fellow whose jolly round face rivals in redness the cutaway jacket he wears that always has 7 rows and 7 buttons in each row. As Shelley pointed out, that's 49 buttons, and I'm sure it would take you an hour to button up. Yes, that is true, Shelley. Are you still
Yes,
with us?
yes, I am.
Just wanted to make sure. You kind of spaced out there a moment. Your head okay?
Yeah, like I said, it's just the Kilkerwin of Marginin wore a swallow-tailed evening coat of red with green vest, white breeches, black stockings, shiny shoes, and a long cone hat without a brim, sometimes used as a weapon. In a poem entitled "The Leprechaun" or "Fairy Shoemaker", 19th-century Irish poet William Ellington describes the appearance of the leprechaun as a winked, wizened, and bearded elf, spectacles all stuck on his pointy nose, several buckles to his hose, leather apron, shoes in his lap. In 1989, a local businessman in Ballinford, Ireland, claimed he had found evidence of a real leprechaun on a mountain called Siev Foy. It said that after hearing a scream near the wishing well, he found bones, a tiny suit, and gold coins near a scorched earth. This evidence is now displayed behind a glass case for visitors to come to see. So it sounds to me like the wee little guy got lightning struck.
That's what I was thinking. Either that or maybe like a meteor came down and well no, because then it would be just ash. It wouldn't be the bones. So yeah, maybe.
As a result, a new tradition was born. During the annual leprechaun hunt, 100 ceramic leprechauns are hidden on the mountains. Tourists come every year to hunt down the little green statues. Hunters need to buy a 6-pound hunter's license beforehand. Aye. In 2019, the 30th anniversary of the leprechaun bones discovery and a 10th anniversary of their official European Union recognition, fortune seekers abandon their mountain search but instead scour the town for hidden leprechaun pots. once of which contained a real bar of gold value at £1,200. Uh,
Yes. So we
can you
have
not
gone
believe
back.
that?
Yes, I see we have gone back to the Irish accent. Shelley says that her cousin Ashton wants to go to see that, to go to the town and hunt for one. I think that would be fun, to go hunting for our own leprechaun and possibly get a bar of gold at that amount. But apparently, there are 236 leprechauns that still live in the caverns of Slieve Foyer. In 2009, the EU granted heritage status to the remaining Wee people. They now have their own protected sanctuary nestled in the mountain. The directive also protects the animals and flora in the area to help keep the biodiversity of the land safe. As with many old legends and traditions, the image and nature of the leprechauns has changed over time and has been updated. In some cases, it's been sanitized for the modern audience. Luckily, the leprechaun, mascot of General Mills breakfast cereal, they're stealing my Lucky Charms,
Mm-hmm.
is probably the best known of this fairy type. In 1959, the movie Darby O'Gill and the Little People also influenced how many people think of the wee folk. Love that movie. Definitely one of my
Yep.
all-time favorites. Young
Yep.
Sean Connery.
Yep.
Um, and then
Really
on the
singing off key.
yes, on the other end of the spectrum, there is the homicidal leprechaun, Lubadan, in the Leprechaun horror comedy film series, which is interestingly played by Willow, known as, you know, Warwick
Warwick
Davis.
Davis.
Yes, they're trying
And
to steal
Wicket.
me pot of gold. Yes,
And
and
Wicket.
Wicket from Return of the Jedi. For generations, some Irish have been annoyed by the leprechauns and the ethnic stereotypes they have been perpetrated. And for most Americans, we only hear about leprechauns around St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, we have only heard this about the St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, Shelley says Sean Connery was a hunk. My sister in law, actually, that was her one guy that she would probably leave my brother in law for was Sean Connery, she said.
Now, leprechauns do offer a morality tale figure whose fables warn against the follies of trying to get rich quick. Take what's not rightfully yours, or interfere with the good folk and other magical creatures. The leprechaun can only be found in Ireland and rural areas away from the general population, burrowed deep in the underground layers with entrances hidden as rabbit holes, or found in hollow trees of a fairy tree they find it safely away from humans who seek to capture them to be granted three wishes. The leprechaun is well known for their love of Irish music and traditional dance. They often hold a celly that can last for days. They are expert musicians when it comes to playing the tin whistle, the fiddle, the boudrain, and even the Irish harp. There is a there is, however, a misconception. The leprechauns are drunkards. However, they do have a fondness for drinking Irish poteen, and it would be unfair to mistake them for the Irish cousins, the Cuchulainn, a drunken creature who loves cause chaos among the Ireland during the night. Leprechauns by trade, cobblers, and with a number of customers are fairies. I mean, you could possibly see this. Hello, I am Ovidio O'Reilly, and I have gotten this new buckle shoe. It's like one, two, that sort of thing. You see, fairies love to dance, as they will frequently dance the night away, wearing and ruining their tiny little fairy shoes. And that's where they leprechaun to make their money, because I can get you that new pair of fairy shoes. When this happens, the leprechauns are kept happy and busy, paid by the fairies for their trade. But sometimes there aren't fairy dances, so there's no fairy shoes. It's during these times that the leprechauns will venture into the human world in search of work.
Yes, and when this happens, a leprechaun will knock on a human store, begging for work in the hopes that you have shoes in need of mending. Well, I've got a lot of shoes. If they want to come and mend them for me, I'd be more than happy. I'd
I've
pay
got a
them a
pair
little
of
bit of
shoes.
gold. If you do, the leprechaun will happily take them away to be fixed and return them, and they'll be as good as new when he's done. In exchange for this service, he will be paid a gold or silver coin, which he would take to hide away at the end of the rainbow with the rest of his treasure. But what if you don't have any shoes to be repaired? They don't take too well for not getting what they want. So if you were to say no when they came knocking, they would curse you. The most frequent curses involves mirk, spoiled milk. Sorry about that. Or they could curse your child so that he or she will speak backwards. But whatever the curse, it's
Oh
a never
yay! Oh
pleasant
yay! Oh
one.
yay!
So it's best to always have a shoe in need of mending, just in case a leprechaun does come knocking. Yes. St. Patrick's Day is a Roman Catholic holiday, and it was first celebrated in Ireland back in 1631. As the name implies, the holiday celebrates St. Patrick, who was the patron saint of Ireland.
Yes. You all know about Saint Patrick. Do you know exactly what he did to uh, to deserve that holiday?
Well, didn't he get the run the snakes out of Ireland?
Yes, and he also brought the Catholic religion, Christianity, to Ireland as well.
Interesting. I just remember seeing the pictures of him with all the snakes at his feet.
Yep.
So,
So with Saint Patrick, we have to look on the color associated with the holidays was actually blue until the rebellion of 1798. Blue was featured both in the royal cart and on the ancient Irish flags. But as the British wore red, the Irish chose to wear green, and they sang the song "The Wearing of the Green" during the rebellion, cementing the color's relevance in Irish history. Ross wrote, "The change from blue to green also better reflected the country's nickname of being the Immoral, as well as the clover that St. Patrick used in his teachings about Catholicism. However, not everyone in Ireland is Roman Catholic, and the Irish flag highlights the difference. While the Catholics were associated with the color green, Protestants were associated with the color orange due to William the Orange, the Protestant King of England, Scotland, and Ireland, who in 1690 defeated the deposed Roman Catholic King James II. Therefore, on St. Patrick's Day, Protestants protested by wearing orange instead of green. Ironically, no one wears white, and the placement of white strips between the green and the red stripes as one of the Irish supposed to symbolize the peace between the Roman Catholics majority and the Protestant minority.
now, an interesting thing, Shelly just posted in the chat that the snakes were actually the pagans that were removed from Ireland, that Ireland
Hmm.
never actually had what we quote unquote snakes. So
Hmm.
that's very interesting. Thank you, Shelley. I personally never knew that.
That's why I was saying that he was actually the one that brought uh, Catholicism or the Christianity to the islands.
Well, I knew that there was Christianity, but I never knew that the snakes that were referred to were actually the pagans.
Hmm.
Doesn't make as good of a story as I remember now knowing that. But St. Patrick was a 5th century Roman British Christian ministry missionary and was a bishop in Ireland. Much of what is known about St. Patrick comes from the Declaration, which was my turn to get tongue tied, was allegedly written by Patrick himself. It is believed that he was born in Roman Britain in the 4th century, and he was born into a wealthy Romano British family. His father was a deacon, and his grandfather was a priest in the Christian church. According to the declaration, at the age of 16, he was kidnapped by Irish raiders and taken as a slave to the Gaelic Ireland. It is said that he spent 6 years there working as a shepherd, and during that time he found God. The declaration says that God told Patrick to flee to the coast, where a ship would be waiting to take him home. After making his way home, Patrick did go on to become a priest himself. According to tradition, Patrick returned to Ireland and converted the pagans to Christianity. Declaration says that he spent many years evangelizing in the northern half of Ireland and converted thousands. And
Yep.
as it says here, his efforts were eventually turned into the allegory, which he drove the snakes out of Ireland, despite the facts that states were not known to inhabit the region. So there you go. That's exactly what we were talking about before, that they weren't actually snakes, but the pagans.
Now, tradition holds that he died on the 17th of March and was buried down Patrick. Over the following centuries, many legends grew up around Patrick, and he became Ireland's foremost saint. In the mid 1990s, the government of the Republic of Ireland began a campaign to use St. Patrick's Day to showcase Ireland and its cultures. The government set up a group called the St. Patrick's Festival with the aims of offering a national festival that ranks amongst all the greatest celebrations of the world, to create energy and excitement throughout Ireland via the innovation, creativity, grassroots involvement, and marketing activity, to provide the opportunities for the motivation for the people of Irish descent and those who sometimes wish they were Irish to attend and join in the imaginative and expressive celebration, to, re- to project internationally an acute, accurate image of Ireland as a creative, professional, and sophisticated country with wide appeal.
Yes, I often wish I were Irish. I've
I
always
believe
been
we're
asked,
I believe we are Irish.
do you think we have some Irish blood?
Yes, on mom's side.
Uh, I have always wanted to do that ancestry to find out like what our DNA is, but I'm almost afraid to find out that the story of us being Native American is not true. So that's why I've kind of hesitated doing it. Maybe someday I will. Um, but in England, the British, Shelley says her maiden name is Kelly. Interesting.
Well, my mother's uh, family is the Armsteads,
Yes, we are supposedly Black Dutch, um,
Scotch Irish.
Irish, and I don't remember what else. And then on our dad's side, we are supposedly there's some Scottish supposedly. There's also supposedly some Native American, some Mexican, um,
Well,
and I don't.
definitely German.
Yeah. So yeah, I've always been interested to do the DNA to find out exactly where we come from. Um, but anyway, getting off topic again. Sorry, ADD rambling tangents there. Excuse me. In England, the British royals traditionally present bowls of shamrocks to members of the Irish Guard, a regiment in the British Army, who follow Queen Alexandra, introducing the tradition in 1901. Since 2012, the Duchess of Cambridge has presented the bowls of shamrocks to the Irish Guards. While female royals are often tasked with presenting the bowl of shamrocks, the male royals have also undertaken the role, such as King George VI in 1950, to mark the 50th anniversary of the formation of the Irish Guards. And in 2016, the Duke of Cambridge, in place of his wife, did so. Fresh shamrocks are presented to the Irish Guards, regardless of where they are stationed, and are flown in from Ireland. One of the longest running and largest St. Patrick's Day parades in North America occurs each year in Montreal, whose city flag includes a shamrock in the lower right quadrant. The yearly celebration has been organized by the United Irish Societies in Montreal since 1929, and the parade has been held yearly without interruption since 1824. Man, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
St. Patrick's Day itself, however, has been celebrated in Montreal for as far back as 1759 by Irish soldiers in the Montreal garrison following the British conquest of New France. And I just want to say this is not Montreal, Canada, but Montreal, Ireland.
Are you
So
sure?
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong there, but
Because it also says the fact of
okay, North America. I'm sorry, my bad.
yeah,
Yeah, it says I was just when it said it went back all the way to 1759. I was like, wait a minute, was Montreal around back then? But
yes, it
yeah,
was.
okay, it was in North America. I'm sorry. Disregard that.
Yes, because St. Patrick's Day, while not a legal holiday here in the United States, is nonetheless widely recognized and observed throughout the country as a celebration of Irish and Irish American culture. Celebrations include prominent displays of the color green, religious observations, numerous parades, copious amounts of the green alcohol, and this holiday has been celebrated in what is now the U.S. since the 1600s, with the first parade, mind you, in 1601.
Wow.
Yes. Now, Lady Wilde wrote The Leprechaun, and which states the leprechauns are merry, industrious, tricky little sprites who do not all the shoemaker's work and tailors and the cobbler's for the fairy gentry, and are often seen at the sunset under the hedge, singing and stitching. They know the secrets of all the hidden treasures. If they take a fancy to a person, will guide them to the spot in this very wraith where the pot of gold lies buried. It is believed that a fairy now living in Outlandia came by their riches in a strange way, although the good offices of a friendly leprechaun. The legend has been handed down through many generations as an established fact.
That was a family living there, not a fairy that came into the pot of gold.
Yes, I know.
Yes. There was a poor boy once, one of their forefathers, who used to drive his cart of turf daily back and forth, and make what money he could by the sell. But he was a strange boy. He was very silent and moody, and the people said he was a fairy changeling. For he joined in no sports and scarcely ever spoke to anyone. But he spent his nights reading all the old bits of books he could that he picked up in his rambles. The one thing he longed for above all others was to get rich and to be able to give up the old weary turf cart and live in peace and quietness all alone, with nothing but books around him, in a beautiful house and garden all by himself. Now he had read in the old books how the leprechauns knew all the secret places where his gold lay hid, and day by day he watched for a sight of the little cobbler and listened for the click click of his hammer as he sat under the hedge mending shoes. At last, one evening, just as the sun set, he saw a little fellow under a dock leaf, working away, dressed all in green, with a cocked hat on his head. So the boy jumped down from the cart and seized him by the neck. Now you don't stir from this, he cried, till you tell me where to find your hidden gold.
Yes. Don't Easy now, said Lady Leprechaun. Don't hurt me, and I will tell ye all about it. But mind ye, I could hurt you if I choose, for I have the power. But I don't do it, for we are cousins once removed. So as we are near relations, ought we just be good and show you the place of the sacred gold that none can have or keep except for those fairy blood and race. Come along with me now, then to the oak fort at Leprechaun, for there it lies. But make haste, for when the last red glow of the sun vanishes, the gold will disappear also, and ye will never find it again. Come off it, said the boy, and he carried the leprechaun into the tough cart and drove off. And in a second they were at the old fort, and went in and through the door made of the stone wall. Now, said the leprechaun, look around. And the boy saw the whole ground covered with gold pieces, and there are vessels of silver lying about here in such plenty that all the riches of the world seem to be gathered there. Now take what ye want, said the leprechaun, but hasten, for as that door shuts on you, you will never please leave this place as long as ye live. So the boy gathered up his arms full of gold and silver, and then flung them into the cart. It was on his way back when the door shut with a clap, like a thunder, and all the places became dark as night, and he saw no more of the leprechaun, and he had not the time even to thank him.
So he thought it best to drive home at once with his treasure. And when he arrived and was all alone by himself, he counted his riches, and all the bright yellow gold pieces, enough for a king's ransom. He was very wise and told no one, but went off the next day to Dublin to put all his treasures into the bank, and found that he was now indeed as rich as a lord. So he ordered a fine house to be built with a spacious garden, and he had servants and carriages and books took to his heart's content. As he gathered all the wise men round him to give him the learning of a gentleman, and he became a great and powerful man in the country, where his memory is still held in high honor, and his descendants are living to this day rich and prosperous, for their wealth has never decreased, though they have ever given largely to the poor, and noted above all things for the friendly heart and a liberal hand. We do have a question. I think it's from Tiffany, which is Shelley's sister. She says, "Are changelings and leprechauns related in some ways?" Um, as we talked about in our fairy episode, a changeling is supposed to be a fairy that was basically they steal the child away and they replace the child with a fairy or a fae folk. Um, so they look just like the original child, but there's always something a little off on them. So if this guy was a changeling, then he, being in Ireland, the fae folk that could have made the change would be the leprechaun.
Which is
And
why he says, I'm your cousin.
yes, and they're asking if leprechauns can change shape. What do you know about that,
I
bro?
I don't think they can change shape, but like I said, they're very good with the Fey magic, so they can make you believe they change shape with their glamour.
There you go. Excuse me.
With that, we're going to also discuss the fact that leprechauns can be bitterly malicious if they are offended, and want to be very cautious in dealing with them, and always treat them with great civility, or they will take their revenge and never reveal the secret of the hidden gold. One day, a young lad was out in the fields at work when he saw a little fellow, not the height of his hand, mending shoes under a dock leaf. And he went over, never taking eyes off him, for he feared he would vanish away. And when he got close, he made a grab for the creature and lifted him up and put him in his pocket. Then he ran away home as fast as he could, and when he had the leprechaun safe in the house, he tied him by the iron chain to the hob. Now tell me, he said, where am I to find that pot of gold, and let me know the place, or I will punish you. Dum da dum dum, dum da dum dum. I know of ye no pot of gold, said the leprechaun, but let me go that I may finish mending me shoes. Then I'll make you tell me, said the lad. And with that he made a great fire, and he put the little fellow on it, and scorched him. Oi! Take me off, cried the leprechaun. And I tell ye, just there, under the dock leaf where you found me, there is a pot of gold. Dig, find.
Um, Raymond says, going back to, all the Irish in Canada, he says, this would be a Canadian leprechaun. You're near
I
me,
would.
gold. Take off, eh, you hoser.
That's right, you take off me gold.
You gotta do it more with a Canadian accent because they're in Canada, not
Well, in
Ireland.
that special, don't you know? He
Yes.
going after the hose of gold. Go, yeah,
You hoser.
yeah, how's.
So the lad was delighted and ran to the door. But it so happened that his mother was just then coming in with a fresh pail of milk. Fresh pail of milk. Not a male, but a pail. and
Fresh milk from the mail.
yes.
We don't
Yeah.
have a cow, just a bull.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah,
So she came in with a fresh pail of milk, and in his haste, he knocked the pail out of her hand, and all the milk was spilled on the floor. Then, when his mother saw the leprechaun, she grew very angry and beat him. Go away, you little wretch, she cried. You have overlooked the milk and brought ill luck. And she kicked him out of the house. But the lad ran off to find the dock leaf, though he came back very sorrowful in the evening, for he had dug and dug and dug, nearly down to the middle of the earth, and no proof of gold was to be seen.
yep, no gold whatsoever.
Yes,
That
sadly.
same night, the husband was coming home from work, and as he passed the old fort, he heard voices and laughter, and one said, "They're looking for a pot of gold, but they never know the crook of gold that is lying down at the bottom of the oak quarry, hid under the stones close by the garden wall. For heaven gets his pickle on the dark at night at 12 o'clock, and beware the bringing of his wife with him." So the man hurried home and told his wife he would go that very night, for it was a black night, and she must stay at home and watch for him, and not stir from the house till he came back. Then he went out into the dark of night alone. Now, thought the wife when he was going, if I could only get to the quarry before him, I would have the pot of gold all to myself. While he gets it, I shall have nothing. And with that, she went out and ran like the wind until she reached the quarry, and then she began to creep down the quiet, black dark. But as a great stone was in her path, she stumbled over it and fell down and down and down till she reached the bottom, and there she lay groaning, for her leg was broken by the fall. Just then her husband came to the edge of the quarry and began to descend. But when he heard the groans, he was frightened.
Cross of Christ about us, he exclaimed. What is that below? Is it evil or is it good? Oh, come down now and help me, cried the woman. It's your wife here, and my leg is broken, and I'll die if you don't help me. And is that my pot of gold? Explained the poor man. Only my wife with a broken leg lying at the bottom of the quarry. And he was at his wits' end to know what to do, for the night was so dark he could not see a hand before him. So he roused up a neighbor, and between them they dragged up the poor old woman and carried her home and laid her in bed half the night from fright. And it was many a day before she was able to get out and about as usual. Indeed, she limped all her life long, so that the people said the curse of the leprechaun was on her. But as to the pot of gold, from that day to this, not only one of the family, father, son, or any belonging to them, have ever set eyes on it. However, the little leprechaun still sits under the dock, leaf of the hedge and laughs at them as he mends his shoes with a hammer. Tick tack, tick tack. But they are afraid to touch him, for now they know he can take his revenge.
Tick tack, tick tack. He has gotten his revenge.
Yes.
Tick tack, tick tack. May that
Yes.
hammer bend.
So with that, that concludes our information about the Leprechaun for this week. What are your thoughts, Rick?
I love the stories. I
Yes.
really would like to see the bones.
Yes, we definitely need to go to Ireland sometime to see the bones and do our search for our own leprechauns. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Remember, as all things, you have got to treat them with kindness and respect.
Yes. Well, I think you should treat everybody and everything with kindness and respect, but that's just me. I mean, I'm a uh, big believer in karma. What goes around comes around. So I
Hmm.
definitely believe in harm ye none. Um, Shelley says that she likes the color change from red to green. That is interesting, as I never knew that they were before seen in red. I always you think of the Emerald Isle, you always think of the greenery there, and the leprechauns being green.
I've always understood, that they started off red, but soon, because of the Irish Revolution, went to green.
Interesting. Yes, as I said, I've always been fascinated by Ireland. Would love to go someday. Another interesting note is they do have in the springtime, as we're coming up on that, a they have a festival for single people where you
All
can
the
go.
single Irish, all the single Irish, all the single Irish, all the single Irish.
Yes, you can go, and they have a like where you meet with people who are like yentas in the Jewish religion. They help fix people up.
Hmm.
If you've ever seen the movie with Janine Garofalo, I can't think of the name of it, but she goes during the festival, and it looks like a lot of fun.
Yes, and then of
Yeah.
course, I, you talk about with all these wonderful people, that a friend of ours actually went to Ireland, and he says yeah, they were the friendliest, most kindest people that he'd ever met. Even when they were uh, they were, as he put it, drunk and stupid, uh, and willing to fight, unless you weren't into, starting something with it. They are basically, yeah, yeah, no problem,
Yeah, I was going to say you do want to watch out for that Irish temper, though. You never want to
yeah,
tick off an Irishman. Um,
or woman.
that's true. But this has been a wonderful, interesting episode tonight, and I hope everybody does have a very happy St. Patrick's Day. And next week, we're going to be talking about angels and the different mythologies and stories of how they came about and what angels are. Do we believe angels exist, and so on?
Not to be
And
confused with the fact of, Steve Perry believes that he's the reason that he lives and the reason that he'll die.
oh, I
There's a
love that
reason that's
song.
always going to be part of your life, baby, baby, baby.
I love that song. That is my definite most favorite Aerosmith song. Love it. Um, but yes, so we'll be talking about that next week. Join us at Sunday.
Or Juice Newton, calling her angel in the morning, baby.
Yes, I
Just
love
rubber
that song.
cheek before you leave, darling.
Another one of my favorites. Yes, but we will be back
And
next
then
Sunday.
there's also the wonderful Amy Grant saying there's angels watching over her every step she takes. Angels
Yes.
watching over her. And now, interesting to note, uh, a little bit trivia. Angels, what we see today, back to the Renaissance period. Uh, Earlier depictions of angels do not look like they're all wings and halos.
Yes, we will discuss that next week, though. So
Well,
that'll
I'm
be
just
something
a
to
little
look forward
teaser.
to. But definitely, we'll be back next Sunday at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, 7:30
Mhm.
Mountain, 6:30 Pacific, and
And we'd also like for you, if we don't forget, to say if you like what you see, rate us 5 stars. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, right there on where you get your podcast at. Most of the time, it is at Apple Pod. And we also like to say, if you want to send us another great story of your paranormal experiences, you can send it to us at info@skepticpsychic.com. Sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
that's okay. Yes, as you said, you can do all that there. If you have any questions, anything you want us to talk about, you can definitely reach us at info@skepticpsychic. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification. And again, we love spending time with everyone and hope you all have a wonderful night and happy St. Patrick's Day and sweet dreams.
And unpleasant nightmares.
Good,
Good
good
night.
night, everybody.